I'm 24M in a 5 years relationship and a few run-ins with infidelity with my partner, 24F. So I've been with my long-term girlfriend for almost 5. We've lived together for just under 4 years. Both 24, and we've had a few encounters with cheating on both sides. About 3 years ago we were going through a very rough patch when one of my friends unfortunately took his life, and we weren't talking for a bit but also weren't on a break or broken up at the time, and she cheated on me with a coworker at the time. She waited about 3 or 4 months to tell me, and she was getting to the point of losing concerning weight and getting sick very often from the mental load of it. We were doing pretty good before she cheated. She just wanted me to open up more emotionally to her in the previous months of when she did it. So she ends up telling me a few months down the road, and I took it pretty calmly on the outside, because it happened so long ago and I could see physically how much pain she caused herself by doing it. She literally had to go to therapy to gain the tools and deal with the mental strain of it so she could tell me. Again, took it pretty good on the outside, but it definitely hurt knowing what she did. I was not a self-confident guy before I met her or this happened, and that really took a hit. Fast forward 2.5-ish years later, I'm still slightly emotionally detached and not giving her what she's asking for necessarily, still dealing with a bit of resentment and self-confidence issues. I myself have been going to therapy on and off for a while since I met her for work stress and found out I am not so neurotypical. What a ride that was. More recently, I was out for a friend's birthday at a bar, and just so happened that an old junior high girlfriend of mine was at the same bar. I use quotations because it wasn't anything serious at the time. We were kids and it was for 6 months or so. I ended up getting way too drunk and made some terrible decisions and slept with her. I couldn't handle the stress by day 3 of what I did to my girlfriend, and so I came clean to her. She took it calmly at first, we went to talk, emotions got hot. I stayed at a hotel one night, and then back at home on the couch for a week. During that first week after when I was on the couch, we started couples therapy, and it was a great start. We both wanted to find out why we had done what we did, and we both want to work on the relationship moving forward. Things got better. I started sleeping in the bed again. Another week passed. Couples session was good. I noticed she was staying up very late on the couch and a few times didn't come to bed, and I got in my head about it and decided to check her phone. After she had cheated, she said I had permission to look through it if I needed to for reassurance, and what did I find? She was recently talking to a guy and entertaining the idea of being single and being torn on their feelings towards each other. Only talked for a few weeks, basically met at the same time I told her I cheated. And I also found she was talking to another guy for what I could see was the previous 4.5 months, and she even met up with him a few times for some dates and they didn't have sex, but it was definitely talked about. She recently wanted some space apart and I know I am committed to fixing it if she is. But I feel she's slipping away. Space is hard for me right now, and I know she's talked to people about leaving, but she still showed up for our most recent session. I understand I wasn't emotionally there for her before she cheated the first time, and I think that's the root cause of this whole spiral. But that feels like putting the blame on me for her stating this spiral. Am I being rational in still giving her a chance and remaining committed to fixing this and trying to get to the root of it? I was the light that led her to her husband. This story was many years ago, but I was recently reminded of it and decided to share. This was back in my party days. I was 21M at the time, or 20F. I'll call her Becky. Becky and I met through mutual friends at a party and hit it off instantly. We start dating pretty quickly. Fast forward a few months, our relationship has been going great and Becky and I decide to have a house party at my house. While decorating for the party by myself, a friend brings a couple guys by who ask if they can come to the party and I tell them yes. During the party, one of those guys spends the majority of the party hitting on Becky. Some unrelated drama happens at the party and I end up having to shut it down, leaving Becky and 3 of our friends to stay overnight. Early the next morning our door gets kicked in by the guys who had tried to start a fight at the party, looking for the guy they had argued with. He wasn't there, so they took some of my things and left. Afterwards Becky completely ghosted me, leaving me to deal with the aftermath alone. I assume she is traumatized by the situation and needs some time to herself, so I give her some space when I get no response from her. After a few days I reach out to a couple mutual friends to make sure she is okay but get nothing. After a week of no response from Becky, her younger sister reaches out to let me know that Becky has been going out with the guy who was hitting on her at my house and was currently on a camping trip with him. I send Becky a final message ending things with her. I get no apologies from her or acknowledgement of wrongdoing, only her being upset at me for bothering her friends trying to check on her. A couple weeks later the guys who broke into my house were caught and we had to go to court and testify. Becky was brought there by that guy, now her boyfriend. They were constantly arguing. The situation is awkward, but I power through it and talk to them as little as possible. After the guys who broke in were convicted, I'm happy to be done with everything and forget about it. Several years later I get the final knife twist in the back. I had just gotten a large tattoo piece that included a lantern on my chest and posted a picture of it on my Facebook. Even though we weren't Facebook friends, Becky saw the picture and left a comment. Super lame, but when I saw this I immediately thought to myself, "You're the light that led me to my husband. I never would have met him without you. I know the circumstances weren't ideal but I really appreciate you for the role you played in my life." Yes Becky, that's great. I got to be the guy you trampled over and cheated on to get to the douchebag you married. TLDR. Girlfriend and I have a house party. Guy who begged me to let him come to the party hits on my girlfriend the whole time. Girlfriend ghosts me while seeing him behind my back. Years later she thanks me for being the light that led her to her husband. I, 32M, am divorcing my wife, 33F, after finding out that my son, 5M, is not mine. Well, a couple of weeks ago I found out that my wife cheated on me 6 years ago. The way I found out is that her sister told me after going to visit her to find out how the delivery of her first child was. She confessed to me that 6 years ago my wife told her that she slept drunk with her best friend. In her words, my wife was very sorry. At the time she told me I was with my son, and immediately after leaving her house I went to take a paternity test with him, fearing the worst. A week later I get the results and my fears came true. My son is not mine. For some reason, I began to see the boy differently, more as an acquaintance than a son. With proofs in hand I confronted my wife at night when the child was sleeping. She asked me who told me and I simply told her that it is none of her business. Although obviously it will not take long to connect the dots that it was her sister. Well, that is not my problem now. Regardless of that, I asked her for a divorce, which is now in process. She was devastated. She swore to me more than once that nothing happened with anyone again, that she has been faithful to me in body and soul since then. I held back the urge to insult her to avoid complications during the divorce issue. Not believing a word she said, mostly blaming the alcohol instead of taking the blame herself. After talking about it, she threatened me saying that she would demand full custody of the child. I was so annoyed at that moment that I told her okay, I don't want anything to do with something that is not mine, that she keep the child and I'll keep the dogs. We have 2 dogs that we adopted as puppies and they are currently 8 years old each. After my words she tried to convince me to take care of the child with her, that I am his father. At that moment I exploded. I was so angry and I had held back so much the urge to scream that I just yelled her to go and take her bastard with her. A week has passed since that and I am at home. It is in my name because it is a gift from my parents. She went to her parents' house with her kid. She has not called me since then. She left with everything and the half-asleep kid when I yelled at her. Especially since it was the first time I really yelled at her, it sure affected her. I talked to my parents and my dad told me that I did the right thing and that I shouldn't be raising something that is not of my blood, and I agree with him. However, the pain is still there. My younger brother told me to write here to entertain myself. I am currently seeing a therapist 3 times a week, who told me that I have already taken the first step, which was to leave behind what causes me pain. It just hurts to know that my family no longer exists. Regarding why my sister-in-law told me everything, according to her, she felt guilty seeing me always happy with my son, knowing that he may not be mine, and that the fact that we went to visit her in a moment of weakness caused her to completely break down with guilt. I don't know how true that is. I just know that right now I feel tremendous hatred for my wife and a feeling between pain and resentment for the child, although it's just time to get ahead. I just hope the divorce goes smoothly. We have separate financiers and properties, and if she really asks for child support I have proof that it's not mine. According to my lawyer that's more than enough if she tries a legal process for that. My therapist also recommended that I not see him nor her. That regardless of the child's feelings, I should focus on my own first, that the child is no longer my problem and the sooner I accept it, the better.